So, if you're a coach that doesn't feel aligned with all the marketing advice that you're hearing, and perhaps you've even followed some of that marketing advice and built funnels and followed certain tactics and promises that assured you would make the six figures in 6 weeks, but left you feeling out of alignment, feeling a little icky, and actually your business no better off. I know exactly how you feel. I have been there. And in this video, I want to share how to really connect with another human and how to grow your business in a way that's authentic, aligned, and really congruent with who you are. A heart-led coach here to make massive impact whilst creating real financial freedom. This video is for you. And I want this video to feel like a breathing out, like a relaxing. Because having worked with hundreds of coaches now, I've seen the less you do and the more you be, the more you attract and the easier your business becomes and the more money you make and the more impact you create. So let me take you back to my first year as a coach. My very first business, which I worked on for around 4 to 5 years, was a food tech business. And I grew it to a 7 figure valuation. I had around probably 8 employees and contractors that I was managing. And I knew coaching was the way I wanted to manage them. There was a book called The Coaching Habit that made me realize that. So I trained as a coach. And as soon as I trained as a coach, I realized coaching was actually my true calling. So when that said business was wiped out by COVID, literally in 6 months, it left me broken, feeling like a massive failure, but also it was the opportunity I needed to step into coaching. So around 6 months into my coaching career, I had created some results, a few high ticket clients, and I was fueled by lots of excitement and inspiration, but a lot of impatience. And I, like you may have, was suckered into many marketing tactics and strategies that just didn't feel aligned with me. But I didn't trust myself at that time. And I followed a lot of these tactics and strategies that left me feeling disconnected to myself. And there was one particular ad that I really fell for, which promised me the whole 6 figures in 6 weeks. And I built out this all singing, all dancing funnel, this low ticket to medium ticket to high ticket funnel, the classic guru model at the time. And it's not to bash that model does work, but it only works with traffic, with volume going through the funnel, something I didn't have with a tiny audience at the time. So yes, this is painful. I took out a credit card and I ran ads on my credit card and chased my losses. And it got to a point where I was so deep in debt that my credit card was maxed out and I had to just pull the plug. I again was left feeling more like a failure than ever have. My wife was pregnant. I couldn't tell her the financial position I put us in. And I felt really broken, ashamed, and really not sure where to turn. But I so believed in the power of coaching. So I took all the money I made from that funnel, which wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to invest in a coach. And a guy called Alistair Gray, who's still my coach to this day. And I invested in him. And he reminded me of the essence of coaching, which is connection and relationships and trust and possibility. And he also reminded me who I was, who I am, the life I'd created, the transformations I created. And he reminded me to go focus on that, the things that I was embodying, the things that I was living, and go and connect with people, meet people where they're at, and create a space of possibility like he did with me. Create a space where they feel seen, heard. And that's all I did. And in 4 weeks, I created 4 clients at 2.5 grand. And I soon filled a group coaching program with 12 men, each paying me 2.5 grand. And that has been the same strategy I follow to this day. Connecting with people, meeting people where they're at, creating a space of possibility. I believe we live in a world where people are feeling so deeply disconnected to themselves and to others. And I think it's one of our greatest longings is to be seen, to be felt, to be heard. And because of that, I think the currency of our current generation, of the world, is authenticity, it's realness, it's connection. It's not data anymore. It's not oil anymore. It's those things. And I'm going to share today in this video how to come back to your essence, come back to who you truly are, and how to connect with your dream clients. Because trust me, your dream clients are waiting for you to do this work. They are waiting for you to align with who you truly are. Now, having worked with hundreds of coaches now, helping many of them get to 10K months and onwards, I've realized there are 3 levels to connect with your ideal clients. And this aligns with Aristotle's model of influence as well, which he says ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is about emotional resonance. Pathos is about creating a path for them. And logos is about the practicalities, the logistics. And this model is very similar. It's about connecting at the heart, the head, and the hands. But it all starts with us, with our own connection with ourself. It starts with the heart. And I'm going to argue that it's the easiest thing to do because connection is our natural state. I was having a chat to a recent buddy of mine here in Portugal. He's a dad at our daughter's school. And we were chatting for like 10, 15 minutes. And halfway through, he just went, "I love you, brother." And it was beautiful because at that exact moment, I was thinking the same. And I fall in love with people all the time. It's a natural state. In fact, separation is a delusion. We are connected to everyone. And this happens naturally when you get really present with another human and you drop the bullshit and you get really present. And I said to my wife the other day, I fall in love with people all the time. And she was like, should I be worried? I was like, no, it's a natural thing. And this is about connecting at the level of the heart. This is what happens when we connect with ourselves and we really root ourselves in our heart, in our truth, and we live from that place. Connections naturally happen. Like a client of mine who invested a good amount of money in me recently, he said to me recently, "Joel, you just get me and I trust you and I love the way you think." Now that is exactly what happens when we connect at these 3 levels. But as I say, it all starts with us. So a concept I want to first share is this idea of having 2 selves. The first self is your shell self. This is the version of you that you present to the world. It's the version that we think we are, that we are conditioned to believe. And when operating from this place, I can tell when my content is created from this place, when I'm speaking or when I'm running enrollment calls from this place, because I am projecting onto my audience. I'm also performing. The shell self is who you perform, who you present to the world. I also have an agenda when I'm in this shell self. I'm also attached to the outcome. I'm also telling people and projecting and sort of teaching them. And there's a certain judgment as well. This, you could say, is your ego. And what I would invite you to do in this moment is actually embody that version of you, embody your shell, and notice how it feels in your body when you're in this shell self. Because when I'm in this shell self, it feels like I'm kind of telling people and I'm performing and I'm sort of looking down on people. And that, of course, does not create connection. Like, think of a teacher that you just didn't feel connected to and you didn't want to work for and you just felt resistance to. I know my teacher who I felt that towards, and they were very much coming to a place of they were above me, projecting, looking down on me. And this is what happens when we are creating and running enrollment calls and living in this shell self. We create separation. Now, there's a second self, which you can call your core self. This is who you truly are. This is you living in your truth, in your authenticity, aligned with really who you are. And whoopsie daisy. What happens from this place, these qualities of projecting go to inspiring, performing goes to being, having an agenda goes to being empty, like just completely empty. One of my mentors, like Stephen McGee, says in coaching, in enrollment calls, create a portal of possibility. You create that emptiness where anything is possible. And I'm sure you've experienced that sense where you are just one person. Yes, there's two people speaking to each other, but I mean, I felt it. I felt like one person in a coaching session. I wasn't really sure who was speaking, and it's just this beautiful process of possibility, this portal of possibility, which Stephen says. We go from being attached to unattached. We go from telling to empowering. We're going from judging to love, which I believe is the opposite to judgment. And we go from teaching to humility. And I want to just read this verse of the Tao Te Ching from Wayne Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It's the 66th verse. He said, why is the sea king of 100 streams? Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Because it lies below them. Humility gives it its power. And this is a really profound concept, especially in this world of becoming a creator and becoming authority. I've certainly experienced it where I was fueled by the wound of not being good enough, and I was seeking validation from others. And when I was operating that place, that shell self, I came from that projecting and kind of telling people what they needed to do in their life. And I'm sure you felt and experienced that from others. And what that does, it creates disconnection. What Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching invites us to do is to approach it with humility. It's actually to stay low. And what this means for me is not assuming you know what's best for others, and stay low, like stay humble in how you speak to others. I know the way I've built influence and I've built connection is remain humble in my interactions and share. I don't know what's best for you, but here's what's working for me, or ask some questions. And it's a very different energy. And I want to invite you to embody your core self. Like, how do you turn up? How do you sit? How do you stand? How do you create when you're in this space of inspiring, of being unattached, of being empty, empowering, loving, and humility? For me, I've got a softer face, I'm more open, longer out breath. Even just doing that, I feel more present, I feel more loving. And our body is one of the greatest tools for both awareness and change. So, some questions to reflect on how to amplify your transmission. How can you deepen your breath? How can you live with more presence? This is just something you cultivate. Inside the ECC, we have the 5 C's, something we do every single day. And the first C is cultivate, cultivating presence, creative force, your transmission. How can you show up more deeply as you? Now, other ways we can connect at the level of the heart is really understanding that, kind of paradoxically to what I just shared, our audience is the hero. The first place to start is connecting with ourselves, but it's also in service of others. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So yes, it all starts with connecting with ourselves, but whenever you are speaking, whenever you are creating content, if you want to connect more deeply with others, put yourself in their shoes. And an exercise I do before creating content or running workshops is I actually imagine my dream clients and I try and embody them. I try and visualize how they'd wake up, what's on their mind, how they're feeling. And I try and actually embody them. One of my mentors said empathy is embodying someone else's embodiment. He said empathy is trying someone else's embodiment on. And it's a really great way to actually feel what it's like to be in your client's shoes. Again, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This is another way to connect at the heart. And the third way is just really embracing your humanness. Like my my community, we do these Friday wins, and they all shared their peanut butter in their drawer this Friday. And guess what? I've got my pot of peanut butter here because I openly share that that's one of my quirks. I am addicted to peanut butter. I eat it like yogurt. I eat probably 3,500 calories of it per week. And I'm okay. That's embracing my humanness. I also get overly excited and perhaps sometimes speak too fast and I'll start laughing at my own jokes. And that's okay. I'm embracing my humanness. And with that, I attract my people. They say your vibe attracts your tribe. Well, my tribe are peanut butter addicts who love dancing, who are passionate about coaching, who are here to play big, who love life and want to create a massive impact and abundance. When you embrace that side of your humanness, your quirks, your kryptonite, people will relate to you, connect with you more deeply. So it all starts with connecting at the heart, and yeah, that's how we connect at the level of the heart. And like deep within all of this is kind of a core message, right? Is you are your niche. So again, this may feel like it's in paradox to your audience is the hero of the journey, but I'm going to kind of explain how to hold both truths. Because yes, you are your niche, but you're here to serve someone. And that's really what we're looking for here, is we're looking for the things that we love, the things that we are good at, the things that people want help with, and the things that people will pay for. Like that is life's pursuit, I think. And when you find that Venn diagram, I think the Japanese call it their ikigai, when you find that, you have everything that everyone wants in life, is that need to be needed. And that alignment of what you love, what you're good at, what others want, what others will pay for. That's what we're looking for here. So both can be true. You are your niche, but your audience is the hero. And the way I like to think about it and the way I've mapped it out is looking back at my kind of journey with my niche and what have you. Now, my journey actually started on a tube ride, and I was outside Sloane Square, and I basically had a panic attack. And I ran off. I found a local bench and I just bawled my eyes out. For the next 2 weeks or so, I was a bit of an emotional wreck. I couldn't really go outside and I was just all over the place. And at that point, I knew something had to change. So I started reading books. I started reading lots of Robin Sharma. That's when I came across the 5 a.m. Club and I realized, I'm a massive snoozer. Snoozing's holding me back. I started waking up earlier, really mastered my morning routine, and that's really where my life started changing. Now, I turned a coach like here when I'd seen the experience of, I've experienced a transformation. I was in a really great place mentally. Of course, lots of work to go. And this is kind of where my content wasn't kind of resonating. And the reason is because I was sharing the things that I was learning but not living. And if I was speaking at this level, and therefore I was speaking to other people at that level, but guess what? The people that were on my level weren't looking to me for advice. They were looking to the likes of Joe Dispenza and people way ahead of me. And when I realized this through coaching from my coach, I realized I had to go meet people where they're at. And the beauty of that is that I could speak to where they're at with real congruence because I was living the transformation that they wanted to go through. I was embodying my words. And when I started doing that, my business really took off. Now I'm somewhere up here, right? And I've kind of gone through this journey and it's now I'm speaking to people down here. Coaches naturally started coming to me and saying, hey, how did you build your coaching business? How did you do 6 figures in the first year? So now I'm helping people here, and I've really found that sweet spot of the thing that I love, the thing that I'm great at, the thing that people want, and the thing that people want help with and will pay for. The reason why I'm sharing this is a journey of, yes, you're changing, but going back to where you were and helping people at a similar stage. And yeah, it's really finding that sweet spot of your transmission, the things that you're embodying, but also what others want help for. And the reason why I share this before the second level of connection, the level of the head, is because we're now entering a phase of being intelligent with our content and how we speak with others. There's a great analogy called the allegory of the cave by Plato, and it goes something like this. So there are prisoners in a cave who are chained and literally can't move, and they've been in this cave since their birth. And behind them is a fire, and the fire is in front of where people walk past in this cave, but they can't see behind them. They just can see the wall in front of them, which has shadows cast onto the wall by the fire behind them. So to these people who are chained there, these prisoners, that is their reality. That's all they see, these moving shadows. Now, one of the prisoners one day manages to break free, and he walks out, and as he walks out, he sees a fire that's casting these shadows, and it kind of confuses him. Anyway, he walks out the cave, and the sunlight, burns down on him, and he's like, wow, that's bright. So he just stares on the floor. So he sees all these shadows moving around, and that's his reality still. But as his eyes start adjusting to the sunlight, he starts to look up, and he starts to see these other people. And then he starts to look at the sun and realizes in that moment, that is reality. It's the sun that's casting the shadow. It's not the shadows that reality. So with compassion, he wanted to run back and tell his fellow prisoners. He ran back into the cave. He was like, guys, you won't believe this. Those shadows aren't real. In fact, it's the light that casts the shadow that is real. Now, of course, these people who this was their whole life in front of them rejected this idea and got pretty hostile to this prisoner who kind of came back and told him the truth. And I think this is such a beautiful story because I have certainly experienced this in my personal life. When you go on this journey of personal development, you realize all these amazing tools and you realize and awaken to the truth. You want to go and tell the world, right? But I've realized that if I go and do that and speak at the level I'm at, it actually pushes people away. So what the suggestion here is to be smart, is to use Socratic questioning. What questions, and to meet people where they're at. And that really is how we engage at the level of the head. Now, here are some questions to think about to really, again, put yourself back into your client's shoes. What do they wake up thinking about? What do they dream of? What do they Google? What's their biggest fear? What's their objection to change? And again, something I do is embody my dream clients. And that helps me remind myself the position I was in when I was struggling with the things that I've now gone through and now I'm living. Because one thing that keeps us from this is a thing called the curse of knowledge. Now, the curse of knowledge is where we assume the things that are easy to us are easy to others. I had that with the 5 a.m. club. Once I kind of mastered waking up early, I just assumed everyone else could wake up early. But of course that wasn't true because it wasn't true for me once. When I realized that, it's like, go meet people where they're at. Go and help them with the things that they are looking for help for. So, so the second concept I want to talk about engaging and connecting at the level of the head is, again, using intelligence here. And there's a great book called Breakthrough Advertising who talks about 5 levels of awareness that your audience will go through. And he says there are 5 levels of awareness. The first level, which for most markets is the biggest level, is people who are unaware. These are the people in the cave who are just unaware of reality, unaware. And for most audiences, most markets, this is the biggest. How we connect with people at this level is with stories, with analogies, without naming the problem directly, but focusing on the emotions. Now, the best person at this is Brené Brown, who I know. She's a great, masterful storyteller. She really engages with your emotions before I watched her video or TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, I didn't know about vulnerability. I didn't realize that vulnerability was such an important thing and keeping me from the life I wanted. She met me at that stage with stories and took me on the journey. And the earlier you meet people in this stage, the longer and more loyal they'll be with you. The next stage is problem aware. I don't know why I'm writing because my handwriting is so appalling. So these are people who know they have a problem. So perhaps they know they feel burnt out, but they don't know why or how to fix it. So here, what we want to do is articulate their problem with stories, with analogies, with your own stories, and show empathy and validate their experience. This is how to engage with people at this level of problem awareness. The next is solution aware. So these are people that know they have a problem. So they know for example, they know they're feeling stressed and they've heard about mindfulness and therapy and coaching, but they kind of feel overwhelmed by the options. So the difference between problem aware is on Google, the problem aware person might be going, how to get rid of stress, how to eliminate stress. The solution aware person will be Googling something like, what's better, therapy or coaching? Or what's better, mindfulness or yoga? So they are problem aware, they're also aware of the solutions, but they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the solutions. So at this stage, again, stories at every stage, but here's where you share case studies and how your solution works. Focus on the benefits and the outcomes and really present the old way versus a new way. The new way being your solution, your mechanism. This is, again, how to connect at the level of the head. So the fourth stage is product aware. Sorry, you can hear my daughter in the background. She is just 9 months and she's just started walking, which is pretty incredible. Anyway, this stage is product aware. So they've seen your coaching program, but they are worried that it might not address their unique needs. And perhaps they're thinking, well, it won't work for me. So what we do at this stage is we address their objections, the reasons why they think it won't work for them, or the fears that they have, and we provide clarity and show why your solution will fix it. And then finally, we have most aware. So these are people that are really considering working with you and they just need a nudge. So here it's like ethical scarcity, ethical urgency, just to help them make that next step. So most markets are different. Fitness markets, for example, are really down here because it's a very sophisticated market. Most people have tried some fitness or nutrition program. So they have gone through that process, that knowing that they can lose weight, know they can eat better, and they know and probably have been through lots of solutions, the Atkins, the F40, or all those different things. So they're kind of down here, and the type of content that, if you're in that market, is very different to perhaps a different market where there's much more people in that unaware stage. So have a think about who your ideal client is and what stage they're at. Now, that doesn't mean you just speak to that stage, but it's just good to have in your awareness. I wouldn't obsess over this, but it's just good to have in your awareness. But for most markets, and if you want to make money relatively quickly, I would suggest focusing on the I'm done moment, the moment of like, they're looking for the solution. They're like, I'm done, no longer, what are the solutions? And they're actively pursuing the solutions. So that is the first way we connect at the level of the head, meeting our audience at the stage they are at, meeting them where they are at. The second way is with big ideas. It's with paradigm shifting moments. The moments where your audience go, I didn't see it that way. One of my big ideas that really has landed with my audience is the idea of fear in fancy dress. I remember the first time I used it with my audience, I was talking about how a lot of coaches build or focus on building their website. And it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they're making progress, but it's fear in fancy dress and keeping them from doing the things they know they need to do. Connecting, inviting, coaching, creating valuable content, sharing their truth. And the moment I used it, I could see my audience go, yeah, you're right. That's what we're looking for here. Connecting at the level of the head, facilitating those aha moments, those paradigm shifting moments. And how we do that is observe and capture. Observe people's behaviors, observe limiting beliefs, observe what's holding people back and patterns, and start to capture ideas. I'm constantly drawing on my A3 piece of paper ideas. I'm trying to connect ideas. Often means a lot of paper gets screwed up and thrown out, but constantly trying to observe and capture ideas, trying to connect ideas and distill things down into models that will help people go, yeah, I see that. And then I play and test things out. As I say, A3 piece of paper, go analog. And the final thing is when I feel like something's resonated with someone, I refine and I repeat. So this is the second way that we connect at the level of the head, is with big ideas, facilitating those paradigm shifts, those aha moments. Because when you do that, your audience are going to naturally attribute that to you. I've got lots of these ideas. My weekly anchor, the 5 C's, my client creation engine, fear in fancy dress. So many of these ideas that my audience are using and even saying back to me. And I know once my audience starts saying my terms back to me, my big ideas are landing. And when they go and share that with others, they will share your name. And that's when you really start to create more and more impact. So that's the second way we connect at the level of the head. The third level of connection is the level of hands. Aristotle would call this logos, logistics. Now, I believe people are drowning in content, but starving for context. And that's how we connect at the level of the hands. We simplify things for people where people can really rely on you for the model, for the actions, for the map. And when you are that person, and people will feel relaxed around you. And as I said before, that's what I think people are seeking from their coach, from their authority, is the feeling of being relaxed, the feeling of, yes, you're taking care of this. And I think that's my goal, at least with my content, is to do thinking for my clients so they can focus on the things that they really want, which is coaching. That's what the ECC, my community, is there for. It's a home for all your business needs. I've done all the thinking when it comes to business, marketing, sales, content, messaging, positioning, offers. So then my audience go, great, you've taken care of that. I can now go focus on the thing that I love, coaching. That is how you connect at the level of the hands. And the way I would recommend doing that is really thinking about what is the one result that you are most confident in getting your clients. Another way to think of that is if you were only paid on successful outcome, what is the offer that you would make? What is the promise that you would make? So for me, if you follow my action plan, I will get you to 10K months. I am so confident and certain of that. So that is the offer that I make my clients. And I've asked myself all the time, if I had a gun to my head and I had to get my clients this result, or the trigger would be pulled, what would I do? And what this does, it really forces you to strip out the non-essential and focus on the absolute essential things. And when you start doing that, you start simplifying and you start to take the stress out of how your clients will get from point A to point B. So I hope this has been useful. We've talked a lot. I've talked a lot, but we've talked about how to connect at the level of the heart through really firstly connecting with yourself, from living from your core self and removing anything that gets in the way of that. We talked about making your audience the hero of the story and empathizing with them by trying on their embodiment and really getting into their world. We talked about embracing your humanness. These are all ways we connect at the level of the heart. Then we talked about connecting at the level of the head, which is about meeting your audience where they are at, and then creating paradigm shifting moments, aha moments, and teaching them how to think with big ideas and new models and new mechanisms. And then finally, we talked about connecting at the level of the hand, which is all about simplifying the action plan for your audience and giving them context not just content. I hope this has been useful. If it has, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It is it's very new, and it really helps me out, and it helps me spread my message where I want to help more and more heart-led coaches grow their business to six figures and multiple six figures in a way that's aligned, congruent, easeful, and one that's going to really transform the world, because that's ultimately my goal. Anyway, sending you so much love. Have a beautiful rest of your day.